Washington Control to Flight 639. What does the traffic look like? Over.
Flight 639 to Washington Control. It's a light, a blue-green light. Over.
Washington Control to Flight 639. Can you make out what type of craft it is? Over.
Flight 639 to Washington Control. No. We can just see a light, a blue-green light. Over.
Washington Control to Flight 639. Roger. Out.
This is Bluebird 1 to Washington Control. Come in.
The jets are coming on now. Washington Control to Bluebird 1. Change course to 225 degrees. Bluebird 2, hold your course. Over.
Bluebird 1 to Washington Control. Wilco, out.
Bluebird 2 to Washington Control. Wilco, out.
They're gone.
Andrews Tower to Washington Control. All our unknowns vanished shortly after the jets appeared. Do you still have any of the unknowns? Over.
Washington Control to Andrews Tower. The same thing happened here. Out. Washington Control to Bluebird 1. All the unknowns had disappeared.
You say those returns are the same as those you got last week?
The same as last week.
At this point, Major Fournet arrived with a Navy Electronics Intelligence Officer.
Gone?
Like that.
As soon as the jets came on the scope, the unknowns left.
Bluebird 1 to Washington Control. We're going back to the base and refuel. Can't see anything around up here. Visibility is good. Over.
Washington Control to Bluebird 1. Roger. Out.
Were they good returns?
Good returns.
Has the set been checked for malfunctions?
The radar equipment is in perfect operating order.
They're back.
Andrews Tower to Washington Control. They're back. Just as the jets left our scope. They dropped back in again out of nowhere. You got them? Over.
Those blips are solid.
They're good and solid.
Washington Control to Andrews Tower. Same thing happened here.
Get me the Pentagon command post.
They're all over the scope. 2 in the northeast quadrant, 4 in southeast quadrant, 3 in southwest quadrant, 3 in northwest quadrant. Over.
This is Major Fournet calling from Washington Control. Radar is picking up 14 unknowns again. The chief controller tells me the unknowns disappeared from the scope as soon as the jets came in and were picked up again when the jets left. The Navy Electronics Intelligence Officer confirms that the unknown blips are good and solid. I recommend a couple of more jets be sent up immediately to investigate. Yes, sir.
Andrews Tower to Washington Control. That's the way we had them. One just moved from the northwest quadrant into the southeast quadrant. It stopped over the White House.
They're scrambling a couple of more jets.
Washington Control to Andrews Tower. Roger on the change. Now it's moving back. Do you get it? Over.
It's back in the northwest quadrant. Over.
Washington Control to Andrews Tower. Roger. We've got a scramble out.
What are those?
Slight temperature inversion.
You can see the difference in the returns. One strong, the other weak. These unknowns are solid objects.
Red Dog 1 to Washington Control. We're approaching the area. Over.
Washington Control to Red Dog 2. Change course to 265 degrees. Washington Control to Red Dog 1. Change course to 114 degrees. Over.
Red Dog 1 to Washington Control. Wilco, out.
About 4:30 a.m., Major Fournet received a long-distance telephone call from Robert Gina of Life magazine. He wanted permission for his people to interview the pilots of the first scramble at Newcastle. Major Fournet decided that under the circumstances, it would be wise for him to take the call.
Washington Control to Red Dog 1. Change course to 315 degrees. Over.
Red Dog 1 to Washington Control. Wilco, out.
Washington Control to Red Dog 1. Come in.
Red Dog 1 to Washington Control. Over.
Andrews Tower to Washington Control. Our scope shows Red Dog 1 is right in the middle of the unknowns.
Washington Control to Red Dog 1. Can you see anything on either side or to the front of you? Over.
Red Dog 1 to Washington Control. Can't see anything. Wait a minute. I see them. Yeah, I see them. They're all around me. They're moving in on me. They're coming closer. They're coming closer. They're coming right at me. Hold it. They're moving off. I'm at maximum speed. They're going away. They're gone. I can't see them. Red Dog 1 to Washington Control. I've been given permission to return to base. Over.
Washington Control to Red Dog 1. Roger. Out.
At 6 a.m. that same morning, I called Lieutenant William Patterson, the pilot of Red Dog 1, who had made visual contact with the unknowns. He could add nothing more to what he had reported to us over the intercom. Later that same morning, the White House placed a call to the Pentagon. Captain Ruppelt, who had flown in from Wright-Patterson and who was only beginning his analysis of the sighting, got the call from the White House.
Yes, sir. It appears to have been caused by temperature inversion. Yes, sir. We've had cases where radar blips have been caused by temperature inversion.
This was Captain Ruppelt's report to President Truman. But Captain Ruppelt had not been present at the Washington sighting. It wasn't until later that he learned there had been both visual and radar contact with the unknowns on that night.